Hi, this is Max Dennison, and this is another session of Rec2Tech Talks with Kenya Matthews from Google. Thank you for showing up, Kenya. I'm glad we could get another good interview. We want to start and hear about your career. We want to know the good, the bad, the ugly. We want to be able to help the young students and scholars who join in STEAM and tech and engineering. We want to kind of give them a roadmap to success, what works, what doesn't work, and what they're going to come up against. So we'll jump right into the interview. I want to start off with where are you from? Where'd you grow up? And then what I want to do, because a lot of times people say they want to work at Google or they want to work at Facebook, but they don't know the names of positions. We've had this conversation before. So I want you to tell people what your position is and just give them a high level, because we're going to dig into it, but give them a high level of what you do on a day-to-day.
Okay, great. Thank you. First, I want to start by saying thanks for having me. Max, we go back a long way, so thank you for including me in this space. So my name is Kenya Matthews, as you mentioned, and I am originally from Knoxville, Belsuva area of Pittsburgh. The area is still very near and dear to me, but that is where I was born and raised. And currently, as a program manager, got my t-shirt on here. I work for Google, but I'm on the YouTube team. So I want to just make sure that people understand that as well. So for the YouTube team, I am a project/program manager. And in that role, I work in our trust and safety department. And so my responsibilities include just basically ensuring that the platform is safe for our users and creators, viewership, etc. Now that could mean implementing, and I'm not going to go deep into the details, but that just basically means that the right protections are in place. And as we continue to roll out features, making sure that those new features also do not introduce any new risk to us or to people who use the platform.
Okay. All right. So, and I want to dive into, because even until I spoke to you, I didn't even know that you could work at YouTube and Google or together. And I'm sure the other people watching don't understand that. So I want to dig into that a little bit more, but we're going to start at the beginning. You said you grew up in the Knoxville, kind of Belsuva area. It's not that common, at least I don't know a lot of people who end up at Google from that space. So tell me, when you were growing up before tech, what did you originally think you were going to be?
You know what? I get asked this question, and I had to ask my mother because I couldn't think, like, what did I want to be when I grew up? And so it's funny. Hopefully you'll get a laugh at it, but I didn't have a specific career choice as a kid. I just wanted to be rich.
I can understand.
I just wanted to go into whatever career I was going to be able to make money and live in a nice house and drive a nice car. So I was like, whatever fits that mold is where I want to be.
So you were going after money. It could have
I
been
was going
a dentist, a doctor.
after.
Now, was there, I mean, just digging into that a little bit more, was it something you seen on TV that made you what made you want to be rich? A lot of kids want to be like Power Rangers, they want to be Michael Jordan. I wanted to be Carl Lewis. Why rich? What made you want to be rich?
Yeah, so I will say that as you and I both know, right, representation matters. It matters a lot. And the manifestation that comes from that representation, seeing that as a child, it means a lot. And so recently, my uncle who just passed away, actually, he,
Or
as a child, he was an engineer. And so seeing his lifestyle and how he lived and going to visit him and in the different locations where he would always build and design his homes from scratch. Like he would always be like, oh, we're moving to Corpus Christi and I'm building my house from, and blah, 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 blah. And so as a child, having an uncle like that and seeing that, I was like, wow, like what, I want to be able to do that when I get older. I want to be able to, have a good life for my kids and be able to build a house in different cities and things like that. So I would say that it was probably my uncle that really planted that seed in me of wanting more and better for myself.
So you were going to your uncle's house. He has a nice car.
Yeah.
He has a laid out house. I have an uncle. My uncle's not an engineer or in STEM, but he was the kind of the guy in our family too that had the nice car. So that kind of made you say, "Hey, I'm going to get a lot of money." Um, when did you first get turned on to tech? And also, hindsight being 2020, you're looking back and you're trying to build the perfect Kenya baby. What age or would you encourage kids at what age would you encourage them to start getting into tech, or what should they be working on? If I'm 8 years old or 7 years old, in your opinion, what do you think the young kids should be working on?
Okay, so it sounded like there were two questions there. So I want to clarify. So the first question was around what advice would I give to a younger self, right? Or another young kid that's interested in tech. And then the other question was, when did I start getting interested in tech, correct?
Oh, right, right, right.
All right, so I wasn't interested in tech at all. Um,
Hmm.
my cousin Dana, who actually works for the city of Pittsburgh as well, I believe he works in the IT department for the city of Pittsburgh. When we were kids, his grandfather would always have, who was my uncle, would always have old computers and stuff there. Like he would have us like take them apart and be trying to put them back together and things like that. So I was introduced to working with my hands and being able to take stuff apart and put them back together at a young age, right? Like there were always computer pieces all over the floor. Now, not to say that I ever completed the task at a young age of being able to put a computer back together. That part didn't happen. But still, again, the exposure to it happened at an early age for me. It never, even in my head back then, did I say, oh, I want to work in technology, or I want to have this job where I'm able to take these things apart and put them back together. That never happened. Um, I ended up going into tech because of my father. My father passed away in 2009. And prior to his passing, for years, he just kept saying, you're so good at trying to figure things out, taking things apart, and putting them back together. You need to be in tech. You need to work in tech. You need to work in tech. Like he drilled it in me. And so when I started going to school, I started at CCAC. Like let's get that out there too. Like you do not need to go to a prestigious 4-year school, et cetera, when you're starting your tech career. So I started at CCAC. And right after I started my degree program at CCAC, my father passed away. And so, but
Sorry.
whenever I started school, he was so elated, like he was so happy that I was, going into this industry. And so when he passed away during the pursuit of my education, it kind of ignited a different type of drive in me to say, I need to finish this out for my father, right? Like I
Mm,
need to
mm,
continue to keep going because
mm.
this is that he really wanted for me. So it was almost a way of allowing myself to still make my father proud by going in this direction. Now, to address the second question, as far as like what would I say?
I want to ask you a quick question before you address the second one.
Okay.
I'll say there. So, but, just real quick, about what age are you when you enroll in CCAC?
Ooh. Oh.
You'll have to say. We can
No,
go
no,
to
no.
the.
Okay, let me think. So let me see, because my degrees are right here. So I enrolled in CCAC. Oh yeah, because my father in 2009.
Okay,
So
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 it,
in 2009, just for the people that know, because I'm not one of those ones that's ashamed of myself, I was 29 years old. I was
wow.
29 years old when I decided to make a career shift and go to school for information technology.
Okay, so answer that second question, and I want to jump right back into that. So I'm writing down the age 29 and CCAC, but then if you were going to give advice to a kid, or what do you think? Because my thought is tech is the future. Every space that you're going to get into, every billboard I see when I'm driving, it says, we're going to beat cancer. Tech is going to beat cancer, AGH. It's just like tech is everywhere. But for you, what advice or what do you think an 8 to 10 year old should be doing to get involved in tech at this moment, in this time?
There's a lot of different, I think that, the beta builders is one for sure that I think a child should be getting involved in. Just I think exposure to it is what really matters, right? So, and that can be in a multitude of different capacities. So it could be starting to code, it could be starting to use, just being exposed to like things like Scratch, which is, a coding template that kids start using, and it's really easy. It's like, drop and play, etc. I think a lot of times too, parents get on their kids for asking too many questions, right? But too many questions is actually what led me and has helped me tremendously throughout my IT career. Asking questions, being inquisitive, because what it does is it builds computational thinking. And that computational thinking and being able to understand a multitude of different things from conception to, completion is really key, being able to have that level of understanding. So I would say just don't be afraid of asking questions and being at the place where you completely understand something.
Okay. Okay, appreciate that. So then we're going to fast forward back to, okay, so you're 29, you enroll in CCAC in the tech program. Your father had passed, that kind of lit a fire under you. You're motivated to finish because of his passing. You kind of want to, fulfill that dream for yourself and him. Were you nervous when you enrolled in CCAC? Because that's a career switch.
Oh yeah.
Um, you have children, like, once you start getting up there and you got children, you can't really play games.
Yeah.
You can't play around with your career. You can't lollygag. Were you nervous?
Yes, very much so. I had four children at the time, and my youngest at the time was, I believe, not 6 months old. So I had a 6 month old. I had three kids. I was working full time for PWSA at the time, and so it was a lot. I had a full time job. I was a full time mother, and I'm taking on something that I had never done before in a professional setting. It wasn't something that I had experience in. So I would say the nerves kicked in, and the popular term that is used these days is imposter syndrome, right? I definitely
Mm,
experienced
mm,
that as well.
mm,
As being a Black woman in this field, going to my classes where I was the only one. If I was not the only, African American, I was definitely the only female.
mm.
Just overcoming, that piece of it. Like, do I actually belong in this space when I'm looking around, and that same representation that I say is important for children was not there for me as an adult entering into this new career space. And so I think that that's why I'm doing this with you, right? Because again, you can't be what you can't see. And so creating, areas of opportunity for exposure for others is key in this space.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you. I really want to get into that. We have a question from someone in the audience as well. Um, but you said you were nervous. There's imposter syndrome. I feel like if you're not exposed to this at an early age, we all get it. You're in the room. Everybody's saying you should be in the room. Everybody's saying you deserve to be in the room, but you kind of feel this nervousness. Nobody really looks like you. You're going to a lot of meetups and places where you don't see a lot of familiar faces. What I want to dig into is obviously you did it, you completed it, but what would if somebody else is feeling that, how do you beat that? How did you overcome it? A lot of people will enroll and just kind of slide out and never come back to the class again. How did you, kind of calm yourself and say, we're gonna get it done? Or did you have any rules for yourself or
I will say over my entire educational journey, right? Because it went from associate's degree to undergraduate degree to master's degree, and I did them all back to back, right? And so I would say that as I was on this educational journey, if it weren't for the support system that I had, I would say it would have been really tough, right? So those days and nights of crying, I have a girlfriend, and I'm going to shout her out because she's another amazing Black woman in tech, Amber Dowdy. We did all three of our degrees together, right? And so
okay,
it kind
Amber, we coming for you next, Amber.
of,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you for the shout out. We're coming for you next, Amber.
Oh, I can give you some names now. We can talk about that afterwards. But Amber, we did all three of our degrees together. And so there were days, nights, we would be in the lab crying, trying to figure out pieces of code. Anybody that does this knows that sometimes a semicolon will take you all the way out. It'll be an hour and a half, and then you're like, there's an extra so
Right,
it
right.
was definitely, and not just the support system of, my best friend that I was going through the programs with, but my family, my friends that are just like, wow, I can't believe you're doing this, but they were always the ones still pushing me, saying, you got this, like, you can do this, you got it, you got it, you got it. So that was very key in my success.
Okay. Now, well, now let me ask the question from the audience. So, one of the audience members said, they're a program manager as well. How do you overcome I'm using their words verbatim, being fluffed out? Um, so I don't know if that's particularly to your gender, ethnicity, but when you're in the rooms, how do you, being a woman, because she did mention she's a woman, so how do you deal with being fluffed out?
um, Taking what I would say is, of course it happens, right? Where you're sitting in a room, you're the only one. And sometimes what you have to say isn't always being taken as seriously. I believe that I'm assuming that that's what this other woman in tech is speaking about.
Hmm.
Um, for me, I had to learn not to take it personal, even though it is kind of a personal attack,
Hmm.
because if you're
Hmm.
taking everybody else in the room seriously and you're not taking what I have to say seriously, it is a personal attack, but I had to learn not to take it seriously and really think strategically about why that person is doing that and how I could counter. So if it's a situation where I remember, I won't speak on the company and or the client that was involved in this particular situation, but it was a situation where at the time I was just the business analyst on a project. Again, the only one in the entire space, in the room, et cetera. And the recommendations and the feedback that I was given by the client, not the company that I worked for, but the client, they were literally just ignoring like what I was saying. It was almost like I was speaking and it was like, wait,
Mm.
am I on mute? Like, do you hear the words that are coming out my mouth right now? Um, and so I got through that meeting and I was really frustrated. And I had a talk with my boss about the way that I was treated. And thankfully, my boss at the time, an older white male who had been in the tech space for some time too, he was just like, it's unacceptable. I have your back. And if you need me to come to the next meeting to ensure that you are being heard and seen, like, I will do that. So I think that also gave me some additional confidence, right? Because I was working for a team and a boss that was like, no, like what you have to say is valid. Next time, make sure, you speak your points. And even if you have to jump in there and say, okay, just excuse me for 1 second. I want to make sure that you all understand what it is that I just said. And let's get some feedback on it. Let's talk about it to see if that is the right direction that we should go, or if not, and it's okay, because I'm not always the one with the right answers, right? That's why you have a team. So I
Right.
would just say, one, I think having a good team that you're working on is important. Make sure that your boss and your team really support you and validate, your ideas. And then two, just continue to show up. I had an old mentor colleague that she would always say, when you show up, you got to show out. So.
Gotcha. Okay. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. We have another question. But I'm gonna get into. I want to ask. I want to get into. Make sure I get all of my questions out as well. But we have another question. But it's kind of what I was going to ask too. So it all goes together. So well, actually, we'll just go into it. So one of the guests asked, and I'm just going to add everyone, but we have a huge disparity in the tech space, right? We know, it's like 7% if we add the women and the men. But if you take out any of those, if you just say just African Americans, it's like 3%. If you say just women, it's probably like 3%. If you put us all together, everybody, it's like 7 to 10%.
Mhm.
How would you encourage young women of color, and I'm just going to say all young people of color, to get into tech? If you had a magic wand and you could do whatever you want in the education system across the board, how do we get more people into tech?
Um, one of the first things that I would do, whether you're young or if you're older and just trying to make a career shift change, because that's exactly when I entered the space as well, is to do a SWOT analysis on yourself, right? We do SWOT
Hold on,
analysis all the time, and I'm
break.
going to break it down. I'm going to break it
Okay,
down.
okay, okay.
Analysis is, when you identify your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats, right?
Hmm.
And so we do these for businesses all the time. We do these for the companies that we work for all the time to identify, the area in the circle where you have all these things that are kind of okay and they meet. But I think that is key first, right? Understanding your capabilities and where you strive at, right? I say that to say is because there are a lot of transferable skills that you probably have right now that you can utilize to enter into a tech career.
Okay.
I mentioned, like, say, a lot of people now are doing blogs or podcasts or things like that. If you have your own website where somebody's coming to your blog or your podcast show and you designed that, that's the UX designer. That's something that's easily transferable into being a UX designer, a web designer, things of that nature.
Mhm.
I do this one all the time. Single moms. If you are a mother or a single father, right, and you are managing a household, meaning you're cooking meals, you're doing all the shopping, you're doing the schedules and everything for kids' practices and doctor's appointments and birthday parties and all this stuff. And then you're like, if you're anything like how I grew up, you know what I mean? You end up making, turning a nickel into a dime. That is a project manager. Those are the perfect skills of a project manager. You're given a budget, you're given a list of things that need to be completed. That's what parents do all the time,
Right.
right? So
Right.
that's another. So I just say that to say, just think about the current transferable skills that you may have that translate to a tech career.
All right, and I want to dig in that because I gotta give you a little bit of pushback on that. So I agree 1,000%. And I actually was looking at a Google certificate, and I was watching. I was reading through it, and it said something very similar. Uh, but for somebody who's watching and they're older and they are a single mother, a single father, how do they transfer that? And you may not have the answer right now. We may have to post this up in comments. I might have to reach out to Kenya directly, and she maybe can help. But how do you put that in the word? How do you articulate that to somebody who, I just know that there's people who probably have all of those skills, but they're afraid to put them on paper in a way like, hey, I'm just a mother. I am really a program manager. I've been program managing for 19 years. How do you word it in a way that makes sense to tech? Because everybody thinks there's this huge wall with tech. It's just
Mm-hmm.
impossible to get into tech. But here we are. You're proof. I'm proof. We both started late. We didn't start at 18 and 19. We weren't Mark Zuckerberg or one of these people. So you can get into tech. But if we're talking to that mother or that single father, and they don't have the quote unquote technical skills, but they do have the tangible skills, how do you articulate that?
One, I would say to start volunteering. Like if you're currently working, I would say to start volunteering for special projects at your job, because that was actually my way into the tech industry. I was working, and I'm gonna keep it a hundred right now because this is what it is. Anybody that knows me knows I'm gonna try to keep it a buck. So um, I worked as a customer service representative. I was a customer service representative. I mean, answering the phones, hello, how are you? How can I help you, etc. And at the time, the organization that I was working for, the City of Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority, they were in a process of going through and changing out some system. I didn't have any tech experience at the time, but I was currently going to school. I volunteered to help, whatever I can do to help me add on to the
Mm,
tangibles that I knew
mm,
I already had, but
mm,
now I need to be able to have some professional experience tied to it.
mm,
So
mm,
I always started volunteering my help with anything that they needed help with. I mean, I'm talking, some of it was just clearing out old data in the database, right? Just making sure that the database was clean. But again, that transfers to things that a database administrator does, right? Just ensuring
Gotcha.
that databases are clean and that, the data is clear. And so I started doing little things like that at the organization so that I would be able to have, the experience to tie to my resume with the tangible skills, if that helps.
Gotcha. That reminds me of an interview. The very first interview we had was with Jamal Davis. And, he didn't have, I don't think he had the technical background, but he did exactly what you said. He was like, Max, I've been playing with computers since I was 8. I didn't go to school for it, but I knew computers back and forth. I just started joining meetup groups and joining and volunteering, offering to work for free. Let me just sit in the room and see what you guys are doing. And it's led to a really, really good career in tech. So kind of just volunteering, offering to work for free. Let me hold on. I'm sorry about that. Just making sure that you there we go. Making sure that you take advantage of whatever opportunities are in front of you, and kind of just growing from there. If you can say, was there one big break that you got? So like you're volunteering, you're jumping in anything you could get your hands on. What would you say was your first big break?
That me volunteering for those special different projects here and there with the water authority ended up turning into a promotion, right? Because it was like, okay, basically it was like they recognized that I did, the groundwork, right, to build this up, etc. And then that led to a promotion. And then from there, I left and went to Giant Eagle and worked in their IT department. And so I was there for a couple years as well. So I would say that was probably me leaving the water authority and moving over to Giant Eagle's tech department. I would say is when I felt like, okay, like I'm actually in this thing. I don't just work and, I
Gotcha.
don't know. I think that was like the first time that it was like, okay, I have an actual tech job.
Gotcha. And most people, just for the listeners, yes, Giant Eagle does have a tech department. Every place of business has a tech department, but because I'm sure people think of Giant Eagle and they're only thinking of produce. And
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, for one, there's thousands of jobs that go unfilled every year in tech, but every place of business, UPMC, PNC, Bank of Mellon, Giant Eagle, Target, Walmart, they don't just have these stock and storage rooms. They behind the scenes, they need programmers, they need program managers, they need all type of jobs that really lead to sustainable living. So you would say, okay, you transition to Giant Eagle, and it's like I'm in this thing. I'm really a tech person.
Yeah.
I haven't heard you mention, and because you came in the game at 29, kind of, I don't think anything's late. I know people that jumped in tech at 40, 30,
Yep.
but that's kind of older. I haven't heard you mention, did you have a mentor? Did you have somebody you called when it got really tough, besides like your partner, Amber, who was going through the classes with you? Did you have an older vet who was like, hey, you're going to go up against this, but this is how you handle that?
I have a sister circle.
Mm, mm,
And my sister circle, one of them works for a large tech consulting firm, but not necessarily in a tech role, right? But just even in addition to that, my sister circle is the bomb. I'll just say that. So what I'll say to provide advice is to get yourself a personal board of directors. So
mm,
get yourself a personal board of directors, people that surround yourself with people who work in different industries, right? But what that provides is diversity of thought, diversity
mm,
of experience, and
mm.
being able to lean and get different support and feedback. And their feedback is tough. Let me just tell you, it's not like the feedback from my sister circle is not like, it was so great, it was so fantastic. Trust and believe that when any of them see this, I'm sure some of them are probably watching right now. they're going to call me and or text me and provide me with feedback of what I did good and what I messed up on.
Right, right.
So I would say you make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that are going to give you honest feedback that is authentic. That's the key thing, that is authentic and that it is going to help you grow.
I like the idea of a personal board of directors. That's pretty cool. I think I have one. I just didn't call it that, but that's what I'm going to start calling it. I'm going to steal that.
That's what businesses need to be successful, right? They have a board of directors, right? So we need that as well if we want to be successful. So
Got you. Okay, so being in the industry, you're a woman, obviously, that makes you an anomaly. Being a Black woman, that makes you a double anomaly, a double entendre, as I like to call it. Are there any problems that you face specifically being either Black or being a woman or both that you can speak on that a young lady coming up may face that you kind of want to talk to them directly to prepare for, or a young male may face, or a young Latino brother or sister may come up against? This is kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly side of it. So, like, is there something, a lot of people have brought up, at least two of our interviews have brought up the fact that when they went to their guidance counselor, they say, hey, I want to be in tech, and they encourage them to go into nursing or to go into, what did he tell? Construction. I forget. It was just like, I don't want to say that you're not smart enough for this, but maybe you should try something else. This is more something you can accomplish. Did you have any experiences that you think that are unique to yourself that you would give your daughter, your sister, your nieces, your board of directors that they may face in the tech space, being either African American or being a woman?
yeah, I would say that there's always naysayers, right? There's always people. I didn't experience that in high school, so I don't have a guidance counselor specific situation. Hence,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know what I wanted to be or do, right? When I was younger, I just knew I just wanted to do something successful. But I will say that even while I was in school, there would be people in the class, other, people that did not look like me or may have called me, like the sassy Black girl. There's a whole funny story behind that too. Or that I was, or, oh, does she really know what she's doing? Or things like that would happen. But I don't know, the way that my mother and my father raised me, it probably sounds like a form of abuse these days, but I literally was not allowed to say that I can't do something.
Nice.
My mother and my father, they did not play that. Like if I said, oh, I can't, like, no, it was no, well, you need to figure out how you can. And so having that instilled in me, even when I was faced with people that were uncertain about my growth or my presence or my success, I had that core value that was instilled in me from my parents of, yes, I can. And so you can either sit on the bleachers and watch me do it, or you can join the team. So it was, that was just always something that was in me. So yeah, there were people in school that would say stuff. I'm a person that asks a lot of questions. So if people that know me know I ask a lot of questions, and I was the same way throughout my educational career. So then there will always be sometimes students in the classroom that would be like, oh, here she goes again with another question. But but I felt like I'm paying $3,000-$4,000 a class. Like I want
Yeah.
to sure that I know and understand and learn everything that this $4,000 is supposed to teach me. So yeah, no, I would say to that, I don't know. I'll just keep it pushing.
Okay. Okay. So just keep it pushing. Okay.
Don't let the naysayers actually manifest in your mind, right? Because we're all powerful in our own right? I think me, like I said, I ask a lot of questions to make sure that I understand things in totality before I move on to something else. There's power in that though, right? Being able to stand firm in the fact that I'm okay, that I'm the person that asks a lot of questions. And the second that you let doubt and fear and all of that set in, that minute, it takes your power away. You're
Mm.
now giving your power over to fear and doubt. So I would say, don't allow negative outside influence to stop you on your journey. That's what I would say to that too.
Gotcha. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. We got a few more questions before we wrap up. If there is there one specific, or what has been your worst experience in the tech space? Something that would just like, I never want to go through that again. If you have one, you don't have to create one, but we've had some pretty interesting stories when we ask this question.
For me, I would say just off the top of my head would be the hours upon hours upon hours of writing code. So 2, 3, and 4 o'clock in the morning. Going through that, I think, is what helped me make the decision that I did not want to be a developer. And I say that was the worst thing, because I like to look at every experience and situation that I go through in life as a learning experience. Like, I'm going to grow through this. I don't just go through things. I grow through things. And so even while I would be in that lab, me and Amber would be in that lab till 4 in the morning sometimes, crying, trying to finish projects, etc. It was just like, okay, this is not it. So I would say, with any bad thing you go through, try to pick out the positive pieces from it so that you can take that and move on.
I'm just curious, what language was it? What language were you learning that you just were like,
Oh my goodness. I think it was when we were towards the end. So it was an accumulation of things. I think we were in the process of doing a website. So we were using HTML, but we were also using, of course, CSS, PHP, and doing the database and everything behind the website too. So we had to build a website where somebody could like shop for things. The inventory would update. We had to write the encryption keys for the payments, and it was a big one. And that's when I was like, yeah, nope, this isn't it for me. It was a multitude of a couple of different languages.
Nice. I thought we had a question, but it wasn't a question. But a young guy, I believe, said she's the reason why I'm in cybersecurity. So we appreciate that. What's
the name of the person that?
Darrell Ward.
That's my son. That's my oldest son. So, yeah. And I didn't push tech on my kids. I let them. I'm letting them figure things out. And so he is now a Navy vet and a Navy veteran. So and decided to go into school for technology after he got out of the military. So
now that's interesting, because I'm definitely pushing it on all the kids, and I'm like, I'm not paying for college if it's not in a tech degree. I'm not. If you don't want to be in tech, that's fine. You got to pay for it. You got to fill out financial aid. But that's pretty cool. He circled back and he jumped back into tech. Okay, so getting close to the end here. We have a student. It's an 18-year-old student. Or no, let's move above. It's a 24-year-old student. They got their bachelor's, they got their master's, and they're jumping into the workforce. In order, they want to apply for your job, or they want to work under you to be a manager. What skill sets do they need to develop to be good at what you do specifically?
One, I will say that it depends on the industry, right? Because my job is it can be very industry specific, meaning when I worked for financial services, I worked for PNC for a long time. And so when I was working for PNC, the professionalism piece is key, especially when we're talking about a 24-year-old. So that's giving me like millennium vibes, right? Millennial vibes. And so the biggest thing when I would mentor kids at that age is the professionalism, making sure that you show up professional. There's a difference in between being confident and arrogant. It's a fine line. Make sure that you don't cross over to the arrogant space, because it's very easy to do so. Additionally, communication is very key, right? Being able to have conversations, being an active listener, making sure that you're engaged. and understanding what's being said, not being afraid to ask questions. Asking questions is important. It means it also tells the person that you're talking to that you're interested in what they're saying and that you're here to learn and understand. Another thing I would say is to get a mentor, and you don't have to have just one. Mentorship is really key in growth, no matter what career path you decide to go into. And get a sponsor. Understand the difference between a mentor and a sponsor, because there's a difference. When you have a sponsor, that's somebody that is at least 2 levels above you in the organization, that knows your name and that is going to be willing to speak your name when you are not in the room and be able to put you doors that you are not able to open yourself. And so you want to make sure that you have a sponsor, a mentor, communication, always ask questions, be authentic. That is another key thing. Be yourself, be authentic. People that have skin in the game will be able to see through the BS each and every time. So show up as authentic as you can. And again, just, take the doubt completely out and just have confidence and believe in yourself. Don't let the imposter syndrome get you. I was a victim. I won't say a victim, but I mean, I've experienced imposter syndrome, even with having the years of experience that I have in the space, working in the space. When I joined Google, I had imposter syndrome. I was like, am I really, like, I work at Google? Like, really? Am I supposed to be here? Like, am I good enough to be here? So I faced that as well and had to, again, lean on my support system to kind of pull me out of that. So board of directors, all of those things. So hopefully my answer wasn't too long-winded, but those are some very key things that I would give to a millennial worker.
Gotcha. And then before I wrap up, is there anything else? Because what I'm going to do is I've been taking notes the whole time during the interview and just taking down some keys to success based off of the interview. Did you want to say anything? How can people reach you if they need a sponsor or need a mentor or just have a question like some of the people in the audience had today? How can they reach you, or where can they
Yeah,
find you?
sure. So one, as far as what I want to say, I want to kind of go back to the beginning of the call about where I'm from and my journey into this, right? So because people that know me know that I like to tell the full story, right? This was not the pretty, road for me. There's a reason why I did not start school until I was, 29 years old. And so I want to say this because there's probably some other young kids that are in the same type of situation and just thinking that, it's impossible to move past where they are. And so I had 3 kids by the time that I was 20 years old, right? So I had 3 children by the time I was 20 years old. And, so when you have kids at a young age, you start taking jobs that you are qualified to do at that age and stage in your life, right? And so for me, it was customer service, right? I could always get a customer service job and, make enough money to, cover bills, not necessarily living a lifestyle, but like being able to put clothes on my kids' back, et cetera. And so for me, it was also a motivational factor because I didn't want to live up to the stereotype that society had placed on me because I was a young mother of 3 children. And so for me, it was more or less about not being this young welfare mom, having generational of, a multitude of kids living in the projects, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever those stereotypes were. And when I moved out of my mother's house, that's exactly what I did. I moved into the projects. And so, but I took my values that my parents instilled in me and just continued to work and grind, and finally went to school at 29, graduated with my master's degree at the age of 37. And so I just kept going. So I say to anybody at no matter what stage of life you're in, keep going, ask questions, lean on people, network. Black Pittsburgh is small. I'm sure a lot of people that know me, know you. And, even if you just get to talking to people like, oh, I know such and such. So network, and make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that will have positive things to say about you in a room when you are not there, because that's how a lot of times you are able to move up and around with these different companies that are here in the Pittsburgh region. So I just wanted to give that little piece of a tidbit, because there might be somebody that, is in a bad place and is just like, I don't know what to do here. And so I would say just start, just go and keep going.
Nice.
As far as kids, my 12-year-old Riley, he picked up tech on his own as well, just being, kids in this age, and this generation. So he started developing on Scratch before I even knew what Scratch was. I didn't even know what Scratch was. And he started showing me all these different things because his teacher introduced it to him at school. And so again, I would just say exposure to different things like that. Workshops, Max, we're working on some different things too outside of this, because I think it's important for us to, even as we continue to move up in our own careers, to always make sure that we don't forget where we come from, and we're turning around and taking that hand and bringing other people along and through that door. I like to say that I'm a transformational leader with a servant heart, because I feel like it's my duty, as long as I have breath on this earth, to continue to pour everything that I have into other people and let them know that they can overcome challenges as well. So that's my bit.
No, we appreciate you. We appreciate you. So, so that was great. That was great. But before I jump into the key points, I still, because we strayed a little bit. How can they reach you?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
I would say LinkedIn, and I'm Kenya Matthews on LinkedIn. I'm really not hard to find there.
Kenya Matthews at LinkedIn.
Just Kenya Matthews on LinkedIn, I'm on social media, but my Facebook page is private to just, family and friends.
Okay.
So LinkedIn is what I primarily use for when people want to reach out for mentorship or advice or connecting, etc.
So if anybody has any questions, make sure you search Kenya Matthews on LinkedIn. Shoot her a message if you got any questions. We appreciate you jumping on, Kenya. And just based off of the notes that I have, some of the keys to success with you were, first, starting at 29 is not a bad thing. Big shout out to Community College, Allegheny County. You can go there. I actually attended Community College, Allegheny County as well. You want to save some money and still get prepared for the future, because college is a business. And you're in the business of yourself. Don't be afraid, or don't listen to what other people say about, you utilize all of the tools and, make your own plan of success. So it's okay to go to community college. It's okay to join at 29. SWOT analysis, something new that I learned: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Interesting. So before you jump into something, do yourself a SWOT analysis. They're doing this at the top companies in the country and the world. You should do this for yourself. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. A couple of things that made you successful. You volunteered for different projects, even if you didn't necessarily have the technical training. Hey, can I jump in there? Is there room for me? Can I apply for that position? So we talked about this with Jamal Davis as well. When you don't necessarily have all of the skills, but you're really good at something, you have the tangible skills, the best way to entry level is to volunteer for projects and add value. When you begin to add value, you begin to get looked at for other positions and other opportunities. And you volunteering and doing good work led you to your first big break when John Eagle and the tech that really got you where you needed to go. A few other things: personal board of directors, people that are going to hold you accountable. People are going to tell you the truth straight up, good or bad. They don't have to. It could be a diverse group of people. It does not have to be everybody in tech just because you're going in tech. Don't listen to the naysayers. And two other things that you spoke on. One was a quote that you kind of said briefly, but I wrote it down because it really stuck out to me. And then the last thing I have circled here is the difference between a mentor and a sponsor.
Mhm.
So a mentor is somebody you're talking to regularly, but a sponsor is somebody actually in the trajectory that you're going towards, that's 1, 2, maybe 3 levels above you, that's willing to oversee your success up that chain of that ladder. Somebody that's going to speak your name and say, hey, I know a junior developer downstairs that's really good, really smart. They're going to speak your name in rooms when you're not in there. And then lastly, before I end it, we're going to the quote that you gave that I like, and before we close up, is I don't go through things, I grow through things. So let's keep that in mind as we continue to get better at STEM and STEAM. We're not going to go through things, we're going to grow through things. Thanks again, Kenya. Thanks everybody for tuning in to Rec2Tech Talks. We appreciate y'all. You can reach Kenya on LinkedIn. You can reach me as well on LinkedIn. Thanks again. Have a good day.